So our final speaker for today is going to be Olga Sayer. Hopefully I see Olga is in the room. Olga, oh, there you are. Hello. That was even before I said put on your microphone and camera, there was pop. She appeared. So our final speaker of this first block is Olga Sayer. I hope I am pronouncing that correctly. And Olga is a TEFL teacher and e-learning designer with over 20 years of experience. Her background includes teaching in private language schools in the UK, as well as designing and building digital learning platforms and writing instructional materials. Her area of interest is creating modern digital learning experiences and exploring how educational psychology can support this process, which all sounds very interesting. And I can't wait to hear this talk to find out some strategies for teaching Generation Alpha. So Olga, welcome to Altalk. The floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Hi, Sean. Thanks so much for introducing me. I'm very excited to be here today, and I really appreciate your interest in the topic of teaching Generation Alpha students. So yes, just want to say hello to everyone. Please let me know in the chat how are you doing today. Maybe just send me an emoji that represents your day. I don't know, write down something positive that happened to you today. Like my personal emoji for today probably will be 4 cups of coffee I already had today as I was polishing my presentation. So we'll be starting in a minute. Yes, we'll talk about Generation Alpha and who they are and how to teach them. Just a little bit about myself and the talk and my co-author. I'm Olga Sayer. I'll be presenting some insights from a book I've co-authored with my colleague in Malta, Dr. Erica Gallia. This book's called Neuroscience Informed Teaching Strategies for Generation Alpha. And Erica and I are both mums of Generation Alpha kids. So our kids are between 5 and 15 at the moment. So there's a topic that really feels close to home. I'm also a teacher, e-learning designer. I've been teaching for quite a while now. I'm CELTA and Delta qualified. And what happened, I think, over the past 7 years, I started to notice some really interesting changes in my students and how they learn, what motivates them, what they find, what they find interesting as well in the classroom. So that got me curious. Started digging into neuroscience a little bit, and how, this is how the book was born pretty much. And that's what we'll be talking about today. So I hope the talk will give you some practical ideas, especially if you, like I have been, you've been wondering, how do we teach these students now? And let's begin. So when we talk about Generation Alpha, we usually refer to a very special cohort of students born between 2010 to 2025, pretty much. So the oldest of them will be entering the workspace in a couple of years' time. And let's warm up. I've got a couple of quiz. Teachers love quizzes. Warm up with a quick quiz. And I've got a couple of interesting facts about Gen Alphas. Let's say how many you already know. There will be 7 statements. And all you have to do is just to decide for yourself whether each one is true or false. So please write your comments in the chat. Think about that. I will just read them through. Number 1, by the age of 8, Generation Alpha spent more hours on screens than in class. And number 2, they still need help with using technology, learning how to use technology safely. Number 3, 50% of Gen Alpha is expected to have a career that doesn't exist yet. Number 4, they create as much digital content as they consume. Number 5, pursuing success is their key value for this generation. Number 6, TikTok is the most popular app they use. And finally, language models like ChatGPT and others is their preferred AI tool for everyday use. Let's see. what you think. I'll give you just maybe 20 seconds to write down your ideas. I can see lots and lots of questions, lots of answers in the chat. That's amazing. It's so nice to see such interest. I'll give you maybe 10 more seconds and we'll just delve into this in a minute. Okay. So, cool. Some people think it's all true. Okay, let's have a look. So here's the key, might be surprising for you. The first statement is true, that by the age of 8, they will have spent more hours on screens than in traditional classroom learning. We'll talk about the implications of this in teaching and learning, because it is one of the key implications on how these students think and learn. Number 2, yes, they are tech savvy. However, they still need a lot of help from us to teach them how to use technology responsibly. Number 3 is false. If you think that's 50% of Gen Alpha is expected to have a career that doesn't exist yet, it is wrong. It's over 65%. So basically, it means we pretty much don't know what kind of jobs they will be doing, which can sound really, really exciting for us. It's a big challenge in the language classroom. Number 4 is almost true. They are consuming a lot of content, but the gap between content consumption and creation is narrowing. Number 5 is false. The app, I know it's not AI generation app, it's not an AI generative model. However, YouTube is the most popular app they use every day. So there's a lot of videos they get exposed to that also has an implication on their learning and content consumption. Okay, number 6 is actually false. Interestingly enough, that voice-activated AI, lots of things like Google Assistant or Alexa or Siri, voice-activated AI is preferred AI tool. So these learners, they prefer to speak rather than to type, which is not exactly news for us. Probably previous generations, they show preference for voice-activated apps and interaction. But like sending voice messages instead of typing, that also has an impact on what happens in their communication, on what they expect in communication as well. Okay, so let's have a look at the certain aspects, the key facts and research findings that will tell us something about their brain. It's interesting. If you think about how we effectively teach this generation, we might think, oh, these are people, these learners who have never known a world without gadgets. Yeah, so probably you, just like me, I'm not an exception, we've looked around the classroom and thought, oh my God, these students are not like the students I used to teach like 10 years ago. In the recent workshop, me and my co-author were delivering, one of the questions that we received was, are they normal? It sounded quite panicking. So it sounds funny, but it really made me think, like, if we are asking if they're normal, there is a sense they are different, that maybe they respond to things differently. So wouldn't it be nice to understand them? So I included a couple of insights from neuroscience that can help us with that understanding. Okay, so let's have a look at the first feature, which is hyper-digital worldview is the first thing we need to be mindful of. This is the first generation born completely into the digital age. For them, tech isn't a tool, it's the air they breathe. They don't go online, they live online, and that affects everything. It's how they think, what they expect, and how we reach them. Yeah, so what if they expect instant gratification, like in a game, and fun interaction, like online? And what does that mean for the language classroom? Yeah, if the tech is the norm and the expectation for them, does that mean that we have to replace ourselves with tech? Not at all, but there are some specific implications. So the first one is that Generation Alpha learners love context that visually is engaging and interactive. So in our context, in language teaching context, this could be some visual interactive quizzes with videos, matching games, digital flashcards, something as simple as drag and drop activity. It has to be visual and interactive, something they can manipulate with. So there is also an aspect of familiarity with the instant search. That basically means they expect answers straight away. They expect them quickly. And in class, we can support this by letting them do the search, use the online dictionaries, the apps to check meaning, to get that instant feedback, and to do tasks that give the apps that give us immediate feedback and instant search as well. So another aspect is constant task switching. We call it, in the computer when we have many tabs open and we switch between tasks very rapidly. You probably notice that adults do that as well. So instead of just deeply focusing on one thing, we move on and just do pretty much everything at the same time. We will talk about multitasking, which is actually a neuromyth. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but that has implications on their attention span as well. The next implication will be that the students expect personalized tasks. They expect to be choosing what to do, in what order. So in the classroom, we could be offering them a menu of activities, like something they could pick, whether to practice something or to help a peer, and be a little bit more flexible in terms of giving them choice and providing this agency and autonomy for their tasks. Another aspect of this is that they are so used to coaching each other online. You probably noticed that how they ask and answer each other all the time in their game. And in class, we can encourage that with the help of pair work, with group work, with peer correction, or maybe having students teach a small part of a lesson to their classmates. So we just really play around with this peer-to-peer learning and teaching. And another interesting thing is that these learners do get a lot of early exposure to English outside school. So they're already familiar with English through YouTube videos and games and social media if they use them. And in lessons, we can leverage this exposure. Yeah, so we can think about how students can go outside of the class and complete practical tasks, how they can communicate with other people. And of course, we can teach them about online safety and so on. But really keep in mind how much English they get outside of their lessons, how they can learn from social media as well. And next, what I'm going to talk about is probably every single teacher notices that, and it's a very hot topic, is the shorter attention span. It is basically when we talk about, okay, it's getting worse. The research findings indicate that these students find it difficult to read longer texts and deeply focus on a specific activity for a longer time. What's important, I think, here is that their attention doesn't get worse. Their attention is a little bit different, and the research in neuroscience has, there are some interesting ideas I'd like to share today. Without using a lot of neuroscience jargon, basically in simple language, they're wired for fast dopamine hits like they get from video games, social media, and they expect their attention to be refocused all the time. Let me get into a little bit more detail with that. Generation Alpha learners struggle with a longer teacher-led explanation. Passive learning feels very hard. So in the classroom, we could probably, if you notice, they teach talking time, we could cut down on our talking time, instead use short bursts of interactive tasks, quick activities and raise the tempo, the rhythm of the lesson a little bit. Also, these learners have difficulties sustaining focus. Basically, their attention can drop quickly, and also that leads to the drop in accuracy and the completion of tasks. They tend not to finish their tasks. So if we don't include breaks, so in our lessons, this could mean breaking like a lesson into smaller chunks, in smaller chunks of tasks, or inserting quick brain breaks for them to rewire. So basically, our job now is, I think, which is a new task for teachers compared to say 10 years ago. We need to explicitly, specifically teach our students to refocus and include tasks that help them refocus. I'll show you a couple of tasks in a minute. Okay, well, there is a preference for novelty and immediate feedback. It also is linked to expecting dopamine hits, quick dopamine hits. They like mini checkpoints where they can see instantly if they're on track. It could be like quick peer checking using like little quiz or like apps. We'll talk about novelty and how we can incorporate immediate feedback a little bit in our lessons. Okay, there's a couple of more. I think I mentioned that they have to be taught refocus skilled explicitly. Such tasks, you've probably done them with your learners. If you're already doing that, that's fantastic. But in neuroscience, findings are telling us that we should be doing this more with such learners. So, for example, quickly find the odd one out vocabulary game, or quickly noticing that something is wrong in the picture, counting the number of Easter eggs in the picture, and basically to teach them to pause and to specifically focus on a very small task helps them refocus and continue with their learning. And the last aspect I'd like to talk about is fragmented recall. So Gen Alpha learners often retain less if the content delivery is too long. And we talked about it a little bit, but it's making the learning content more digestible by breaking into small, meaningful sections using multimedia. I'll talk about multimedia a bit later, but the content that includes very short quizzes or games or discussions helps them strengthen their memory and recall. So it's not just attracting their attention if we break the learning into smaller chunks, it actually strengthens their memory and recalls. Let's have a look at some more of their superpowers. The next going to be neuroplasticity is a big word. It's been quite a big buzzword. Higher neuroplasticity and adaptability. They not just learn. You probably noticed that they're constantly learning, self-paced learning. They constantly relearn. So their brains can literally rewire faster. You can probably notice that how they, when something changes in their online environment, they immediately go and Google something, how to achieve certain things. So their relearning is, it happens quicker than in learners before them. So in language learning, that means they can be more flexible, and we can use this flexibility, their cognitive flexibility as well, and offer them activities that help them become more flexible in communication, such as paraphrasing, building on top of new structures, playing with, synonyms. And if we allow them to experiment, they learn through trying out multiple times. Okay. Okay. Number 4, this fact, I love this, is basically that explains so much in what we see in these learners in the classroom. I hope you agree with me. Please write it down in the comment section what you think. Their motivation is closely linked to dopamine release. Dopamine is a chemical in our brain that reinforces behavior by making us feel good when we achieve something. Yeah, like something if we complete a level in a game, we're getting a like on a post or receiving praise. So dopamine is kind of our motivational brain's fuel in a sense. So such learners, they're not really addicted to devices. If we can look at it from the positive angle, we can say that they are feeling addicted to feeling immediately successful, to feel interested, to feel connected when they get this instant feedback. So they also probably not bored. Maybe they're just craving this dopamine, which gives them the sense of achievement. So they need to feel successful right away. And an implication of this is we as teachers need to be mindful of how do I create a learning environment that allows them to feel successful straight away? How do I allow them to experiment with language where they feel good about themselves, where they feel interested, curious, and connected with others as well? Yep. There's a couple of things we're moving on to other elements. Okay. We'll be talking about that. And there's a couple of things that I also need to mention about Generation Alpha. That's what the research is telling us. It's interesting that, again, being exposed to lots and lots of online collaborative tasks would basically suggests they are and they need to be constantly connected. It has big implications on language teaching. They are entrepreneurial and they are social. This is social, but not sociable. I have to be clear about being social. For example, we know that this idea of being connected all the time, talking to each other online all the time, creates this idea of, interconnectedness. However, when the students are in class, they might still struggle to communicate, to be sociable, because I think the exposure to devices and communication using the devices presents this idea of kind of A-B communication. So we write something as text or send a message, and then we will listen to another message that we receive, and that creates this sort of quite artificial exchange, which is very different from how we communicate in real life and how we talk spontaneously. This is a very big topic, and I unfortunately don't have time to focus on all this today, but it's absolutely essential that we differentiate between them being social and them being sociable. In this talk, I'd rather focus more on the neuroscience insights and how these insights help us arrange our learning environment to create a positive learning environment for our students. So let's take a look at another thing which I think you might find interesting. So we talked about the shorter attention span. There are neuroscientific reasons behind that. Quite often such learners experienced early and continuous exposure to digital tech, which reshapes their neural pathways. Basically, it means how they think. Their attention is still maturing as they're teenagers, so their focus is inconsistent by default. And there's also this concept of mind wandering, and which I personally like very much, that actually our brain is fundamentally a wandering brain. So attention isn't fixed, is very trainable, is not linear. And when we are, just imagine your everyday life when you, take the bus, travel to work, or you drive to work. There's so many things we tend to think of all the time. Our attention is constantly shifting, and this is very natural. There are many reasons for Generation Alpha why they lose their focus, and they're listed here. We'll talk about more specifically. I'll give you a couple of ideas that you can apply with your students that I find entertaining and sustaining focus as well. I noticed a trend recently on social media, and I'm a big fan of checking trends on social media. And recently, you probably heard this expression that, our learners, they can't sustain focus for longer than a reel. That actually the news is now social media users are starting to get bored with reels. They can't focus on long enough even on a short clip. Yeah, so this is what content creators do to get the viewer's attention. Here is a typical there was a typical example I saw on social media. When something is unusual and catches your attention, we immediately refocus on the activity. For example, when I watched a reel, I saw somebody making, I don't know, ice cream. And when she was putting the ice cream molds in the fridge, I noticed there was lots of light bulbs in the fridge suddenly. And then immediately I went to the comment section. Everybody was typing away, well, why are there so many light bulbs in the fridge? So since then, I noticed that, there is a great idea to use in the classroom. So I include something really odd and like something that stands out to grab students' attention. So let's have a look at for example, left example you see on your screen right now. Here's a typical FCE task where we have to look at the image and talk about the reasons why people choose these methods to speak to each other. If you can notice something unusual in this picture, I'm just being very direct with you. The first person to spot what's going on in that. If you notice something about this picture, and write it in the chat, and also notice how your attention probably was refocused. So I'll give you a couple of seconds to write that in the chat, and to see if you notice that your attention is refocused on this. Okay, the cheese. Yes, I can see. Yes, lots of people started noticing the cheese. This is the example. I'm not saying you have to include the cheese in all your slides. However, it's an idea that can help us bring people's attention quickly to something. Okay. The second screenshot I was using, these are very specific strategies for attracting attention. Just an idea, apart from everything we're already doing in the classroom. There is this YouTube video, which basically is called 4 Hours of Your Mum Helps You with Your Homework. There's a literally 3-hour video of someone with a towel on their head, popping in every 15 minutes going, are you studying? Are you doing your homework? Get back to your homework. I thought it was such a great example of refocusing. It's in a fun and interesting way to refocus. There's lots of apps that help us sustain focus. If you're interested, please drop me a line and I can give you a list of apps that help us sustain focus, such as Planty, where there is an idea of planting a tree. If you don't touch your phone for 15 minutes, there is a beautiful tree that you can grow. If you grab your phone and start scrolling, the tree unfortunately dies. So it's just another way of kind of sustaining attention. Okay. Here is just the summary of strategies for attracting attention. So in the classroom, apart from just tasks and little games we can give our students to sustain attention, these are things that help them and their brain-friendly activities. Let students move around if possible. Yeah, so you can agree on classroom rules together. When it is okay to move, when it's okay to use devices, when it's okay to take little breaks, that really helps them refocus their attention. Also, it's interesting how distraction can really exhaust us, and we can be mindful that, maybe if you're teaching in the classroom, just pay attention if your walls have lots of visual stimuli as well. So if we keep our classroom walls like uncluttered, if we have a clean digital whiteboard without the extra unnecessary details, they can actually help learners focus on the content. Yeah, if you're preparing your slides, maybe one idea per slide could be perfect for your learners to focus their attention on. We can set clear goals and show students what they are aiming to achieve. So in language learning, we can use SMART goals, or we can write down the lesson aims on the board so that the students can see the roadmap. this is where I'm starting, this is where I'm going to. With younger learners, we can use visual roads. Students love that. They want to know where they're going with this, and that helps them sustain attention and focus as well. Pauses and breaks are so important, so we can take little breaks to stretch, to do a tongue twister, to maybe allow learners to walk around the classroom to different stations. Like in my classroom, we had different stations. Students can work and shuffling that classroom, the physical movement from table to table recreates that, the reset of the brain. That is very helpful in language learning. The word multitasking in itself is a myth. So we don't really, multitasking in itself suggests that we can do lots of things at the same time. However, neuroscience suggests this is not really true. We can only focus our attention on one thing at a time. So if we're writing an email and listening to music, we're focusing on writing an email, and then we focus on listening to music at the same, after, we shift our attention from the email to music or to doing something else. And here is an idea that maybe we could talk about how we can reduce the cognitive load when we multitask. So I'll give you an example. So if you are jogging and listening to the radio at the same time, this is a manageable activity, because one of the tasks doesn't involve brain activity and the other one does. So that makes it quite easy for us to combine, doing two things at the time. But imagine if kids doing that. If you have children, you probably see that they might be trying to text their friend. They might try to write an essay and do their homework at the same time. Plus, there's something else is going on. They shift, this shift between tracks on their YouTube playlist they're listening to. So that in itself, if we have two tasks that we're trying to do at the same time and the cognitive load is high, that becomes very difficult for our brain to sustain focus and engagement at the same time. So we need to be mindful of, if we're trying to offer our students activities that involve multiple tasks, we need to be mindful of how much cognitive energy each of these little tasks take, and maybe reduce one of them to make it more doable for our learners. And just be mindful of that. And finally, with peer activities, peer support can be very, very helpful for Gen Alpha learners. The stronger students can help weaker students. So for instance, in a speaking or a writing activity, one student can model a sentence while the other practice the swap roles. You can use the stronger students to act as language coaches or do the teaching for you for a little bit. And then they can swap roles. Okay. What I also want to talk about with Gen Alpha, teamwork is a very good brain-friendly activity. Well, brain loves teamwork. Why? There is an answer in neuroscience. Teamwork, when we work with others on a shared goal and we know the direction of where we're going, this activity in itself boosts lots of feel-good chemicals in our brain, like oxytocin, dopamine, feeling connected to others. And for Gen Alpha, working together is essential. So in terms of practical suggestions, I have two activities. I love interactive whiteboards, interactive collaboration spaces like Padlet, where students can provide the input in, and I can see if they using iPads in class, for example, they can provide the input and I can see the whiteboard filling in with their ideas in class. That creates the sense of collaboration. Also, teamwork is ranked as a very important skill. It's very important in our day and age to be able to work in a team. And there's lots and lots of tools we can use. If your school allows that, that is great. Even if there's no opportunity to use whiteboards or internet or interactive boards in class, we can recreate that on paper. For example, we can have post-it notes. If you're doing that, that is amazing already. I'm just suggesting if you haven't done that, that would be a good idea to do. They can use post-it notes and post them to the walls. My school doesn't like blue tack, so we've banned that. So using post-it notes is something that can be easily removed from the wall, where students work together and there is a physical evidence of their work together. Another idea I have in mind, apart from collaborative spaces for students, is that students can use teamwork to achieve two aims. The first one is to strengthen a connection within the group. If you're starting with your class and you don't know your students very well, it's just the beginning of the year, you can ask your students to get into a team and write a team mission statement, to write about how they're going to demonstrate the personality qualities, how we're going to be brave this year, what we're going to try this year. We're going to try out new grammar this year. How are you going to show this? So interestingly, that students have lots of ideas about, how they're going to learn. They have their own ideas. What helps them learn better? How they're going to achieve that? It is great to listen to them as well. So this activity helps us strengthen the connection and give them a sense of autonomy in the class. And the second idea I've got is that we can use teamwork as a tool for assessment. Peers can act as assessors, and they can give each other feedback on how the group did today. Yeah, if they're delivering a presentation, we can have another group that has a very simple checklist where they can note, there is one thing that this group did well, there is an area for improvement. If you are working within the group, they can give feedback to each other within the group. So what did you like about working in this group? What will you do differently next time? So this not just reinforces learning, but it also develops critical reflection and their communicative skills as well. We don't have to keep teams the same throughout the year. We can, for example, in my experiences, we had teams that work on a long project for the full school term, and then the teams would change. Yeah, so the students will have equal opportunity to work with very different people in the class as well. So that is peers that act as assessors and the peers that form this sense of connection. Just a tiny comment about connection in the classroom. I think when people feel safe and connected in the classroom, by the way, I've seen these comments in the chat before, and I can't agree more. When people feel they can truly be themselves safely and express themselves, a team can be that tool that provides them with a sense of security and autonomy as well. So it's down to the relationship that people have in the classroom. Unfortunately, don't have enough time to talk about it, but it's something that I'm very mindful of, is the quality of the relationship in the group. Can this team work together? Okay, this is the topic that is going to be so hot, and know the teachers, including myself, think about that so much. It's the AI revolution. So AI becomes more integrated in our learning, and there's, of course, and that has implication on the teacher's role as well. The teacher's role is shifting, and AI is only accelerating this change. So we'll talk about the role of the teacher for our students as well. So I thought we should talk about AI. Thanks to AI, lots of things are different. We know that AI can harm students' critical thinking and creativity. There's just been a report published on how students self-assess their own skills, whether AI helps them. And surprisingly, well, not surprisingly, lots of people said, young learners said that actually using AI really is not beneficial for their creativity. Also, there are concerns about AI-generated content. It's really, really tricky because thanks to AI, anything we see or read online can be fake, even videos. And the tricky part, when everything can be faked, it starts to feel like truth itself is negotiable, and there are deep fakes and a real danger of artificial news or content that they don't just trick us, is that they can make us feel desperate because we can't seem to trust anything anymore. There might be this growing sense that we can't trust the reality. What is the reality? And that's why critical thinking becomes a core survival skill that we can teach our students. There are implications of ethical use of AI. There's also data protection concern. And we'll talk about that in a minute because I have just a couple of comments regarding the tools of AI. Of course, AI can help us create lesson plans and improve our assessment and improve writing skills. I recently attended a talk by someone, and it was actually a university teacher. She allows you the use of AI in the classroom for like older learners. But what they need to do is they are encouraged to generate ideas independently and check them, and then use AI to help them put their content together. And I thought that was a great idea, actually, because of course AI is just a tool. However, we can use this tool mindfully. AI and the use of technology does have an implication on who we are. I know lots of teachers now might wonder, okay, there are AI apps that can provide students with speaking practice, for example, can give them feedback immediately. And I still believe that our role is even more important as before. It's just slightly shifting. Let's have a look at this role of the teacher, because this is something I feel very, very strongly, passionately about. We are not just knowledge providers, yes, and it's been like that for quite a while now. Our role is involving, and we can be a guide helping students to access, analyze, and apply the information. We can help them create the environment. Rather than just teach, we create an environment where they can collaborate, make decisions, learn from each other, get feedback in a safe space. Yeah, so the content is out there already. They can get the content. So now they need us to help them make sense of it. Yeah. So there is this idea of guiding versus teaching. The critical thinking skills become paramount. Yeah. So students know, that the content is there, but what they probably don't know is like whether I can believe this information. Yeah. So if we think about the new world that AI is creating now, where the seeing doesn't mean believing anymore. Yeah. So we can help our students learn how to think instead of what to think. Yeah. We can think about the new skills that we need to teach our learners in the classroom, which become crucial skills such as media literacy. They need to learn how to evaluate the source of information, bias detection. Maybe AI, there will be tools that will help us analyze where the information is coming from, maybe giving our students an idea of that every single fact can be cross-checked in the different sources as well. And this is going to become the teaching in the next next couple of years, where bias detection is going to become an everyday core skill. So when you think about the practical implication of this, how can I help my students learn to distinguish between facts and fake? We could probably include more tasks that involve analyzing content, whether content is real or fake. Maybe we could discuss the motives, what makes people, what motivates people to generate such content, and understand the concept of generative AI as well. So I was even thinking that maybe our role is not just shifting to a guide. Maybe we're now becoming more of true coaches, truth coaches. There's somebody who can really is responsible for helping them distinguish the fact from a fake. Okay. And I know lots of teachers, including myself, we might doubt ourselves. Okay, now students have so many apps and language learning websites and technology to help them learn a language. They can sign up, I don't know, to a YouTuber and learn their 3 words a day and practice their English with AI voice coaches and get instant feedback from that. That becomes the reality. However, and it has started to happen actually, because I also work with adults, and I recently had an adult student coming to me saying, look, I'm so good at using ChatGPT now. My ChatGPT is so kind with me, gives me tasks every day, and I can do the writing and I can get feedback from, which is quite accurate in her opinion, that basically it covers all my needs. However, I still need a human teacher. I found that very inspirational. I said, well, why? What is it that makes you think that you still need someone that guides you, the human touch? And what you said was very interesting, because we talked about that fundamentally a language is there for us to communicate with other people. It's not much fun to be just communicating with a robot. Yeah, even if you just doing, if you have a problem, you'd rather talk to a person now instead of a AI. So I'm just thinking about the fundamental need of every single human being to be connected with other humans. So pretty much, yes, the technology is shaping the language. It is shaping the teaching, but I don't think it is affecting the fundamental core emotional need behind why we want to learn, why we want to communicate, and why we want to be connected with people. Is such a basic need that is pretty much unchangeable. It's pretty much there. So the implication for the language classroom is, let's balance technology with human skills. The technology is just a tool. It's just a helper for we can just help them, but there's so much more they'll learn from us emotionally and socially as well. Okay. So yeah, I just want to say thank you, and just my last. We'll move on to the questions and answers. I would love to focus on that in a minute. So to sum up, what I'm thinking after having done that presentation, and as I was preparing the main points I wanted to include, yes, Generation Alpha learners are different in so many ways. They're visual, they're tech savvy, they're used to task switching, they learn in those quick bursts, and that means our lessons need to be adaptable. They need to be interactive, they need to be flexible, we need to provide bite-sized learning, and also give them plenty opportunities to learn from each other, to get that instant feedback, and to get them moving physically around the class. And also at the same time, they need us to teach them focus specifically, very explicitly. They want us to teach them critical thinking and collaboration, and to help them, I guess, just deal with that ton of information that's coming at them all the time, every day. I read somewhere that if you think about it, how much information you get exposed to every day, there is an equivalent of 20 books. It is insane compared to, say, 20 years ago. It is a challenge, but it also is an exciting opportunity. So if we adapt our teaching to how they learn, they can help them stay engaged and motivated and make progress. And well, hopefully that's what you can take away today, is some understanding how these learners' brains work. I find that helpful myself. And you can tweak your teaching accordingly. It doesn't mean you have to change the way you teach, but maybe just tweak it just that 1%. I like the idea of 1% change. It means that even tiny tweak in the way we teach, it's like a plane slightly adjusting the course. If a plane adjusts the course just 1%, it can completely change the destination. So yeah, small changes can make a big difference. And thank you, Mark. Thank you so much for listening. I can see there's some feedback, and I'm very happy to move on to questions and answers.
So Olga, if you click on the Q&A tab, you will find a fair amount of questions there. If you'd like any help with going through those, do let me know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to quickly read. Yeah, there's quite a lot of questions and answers, and if you don't mind, I'll just read them out, and we'll see if we have some time to answer them. So teenagers who are in, I think it's Hatties G. Teenagers who are interested in English come to the class ready to speak and learn more, but we have the ones who have no interest in learning and anything, as they have this AI. They think they can ask anything. They're curious about that. It makes it impossible to make this whole group focus on similar topics and make them ready to learn. We know for so many years that Finland has a good model of teaching, as the scores are higher and their education system is project-based. Does OEP have any plans about it? Okay. I guess this is that hits home so much for me. That is the way I'm seeing this question, is that we have so many students in our classrooms that are so different in motivation, I guess. Oh, and that question has disappeared. So my comment anyway is that I do sense that we can get lots and lots of people in the same class who have completely different motivation. So I guess for us, it could be first of all to get to know these learners really, really well, and then plan your teaching accordingly. Because if we say that they don't want to learn, I would probably be thinking, okay, they don't want to learn this, but what is it they're interested in? How can I get to know them a little bit more, and just to tweak this aspect? Okay, where does this data come from? Well, we have some in the book. It's a great question. So we specifically used research and the research findings that underpin the book, and basically in our book there are, I think, 7 different aspects we talk about, and there's a lot of research. Some of this research is new, some of this research is about 10-15 years old, so it's pretty much accessible. The idea is not to discover something, not to say that Generation Alpha are those completely different cohort of learners that are completely different from others. It has been going on, the trends have been going on for a while now, and we can't say that Gen Alpha are completely different, because we can notice that with previous generation, and this partly the result of digital and social media exposure that does change your brain, does change the dopamine loop in your brain. So think about yourself. I don't think lots of people can agree with me that even we can notice that in ourselves. I asked some designers at Oxford University Press the other day about how they deal with if they notice any change in their attention span. And lots of people notice that they are as well find it difficult to focus for extended periods of time. We notice a lot of signs that almost are similar to the attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder. So it is, I'm not saying there is more of that now, but I think the social media and how we interact with our phones and media every day is actually is having an impact on everybody, including the Gen Alpha as well. Okay. What about using VR? I think it's a great idea using virtual reality for language learning. If your school is equipped and can use the VR, this is a fantastic opportunity for practicing interaction in a safe environment, knowing that if you're, for example, stressed about something, you can always pause and step back, vary the speed of this interaction as well. So VR is a great training environment for the real life interaction. If there is an opportunity for you to use that, that is absolutely fantastic. I think it's great. Okay. Okay. Oh, I see. It sounds like there was no answer. Yeah, I can see that now. Pursuing success is a key value. People are wondering whether there was an answer. Okay. Sorry about not including the answer. Basically, success is not a key value for this generation. Lots of these students report that they are more concerned about the society and other people. So they are more driven towards being globally connected and, you know, like social justice, inclusion is kind of, it's on there now. These learners have been connected from pretty much birth, and they find it much easier to interact and collaborate from people across the globe, and they don't find it difficult at all. So there is this focus. Okay, yeah. All right, let me have a look at okay. Let me have a look if I think I have time to answer a couple of right now.
Yeah, it depends how long your answer is, but you've got about 3 minutes left.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Yes, I always try to keep my answer short, but it doesn't happen very often when I get carried away. I think it can be difficult. Okay. I see. Well, I'm noticing that teachers can be frustrated. Again, there's a question of parents probably encouraging excessive gadget use at home. There is a difficulty as well. I can just comment on that yes, the families are very different. In some families, learners, the children are allowed to use their phones and their gadgets for excessive number of time, and that has an implication on their attention and their retain skills as well. Okay. Yes, I promised to share a list of apps that help us focus. Okay. Of course I can, and I will do, and I will leave this list. If you're interested, you could just go to any app store that is available in your country and search for productivity apps. Productivity is quite a generic word. However, there's lots of apps that are specifically helping us with time management and retaining focus. And I think apps that help us retain focus, they have been quite on the rise. There's lots of unpaid versions of them. I use Plenty personally, the one that helps me grow a tree, and use the Pomodoro technique that allows me to work for 15 minutes and then grow a tree in 15 minutes. And that is kind of keeps me on track with things. Yeah, I will make sure I'll send you the list. Okay. Right. Well, I like the question about the use AI effectively in the classroom. I think what I can, just a couple of quick comments about that. AI has lots and lots of possibilities. First of all, for teachers, it can help us with our lesson planning. With learners, I think they can use AI, as I mentioned previously, to put together, their ideas. They can use AI to help them with feedback. Lots of not just Generation Alpha, but other learners value AI feedback because it can help them with very specific language points. And I think this has to be encouraged because they expect to get instant feedback straight away. And I don't see why we can't use that. I don't see how we can use that all the time in the classroom, but we can encourage this as a practice for them to check themselves. Yeah. I don't know if we can quickly. I think that's pretty much it. I don't think I have time to answer other questions.
Okay, no, that's fine. Yeah, we're coming up to time, so thank you very much, Olga. There's one slide left. Is there? Oh no, it's just the beginning slide again. Okay, so lots of interesting things. I don't know if you've been watching the chat box, but people have been saying thank you for so long. There's so many thank yous and love hearts and things like that in there. So thank you so much. Let me find the camera. And obviously, Olga, you have a book. You mentioned the book, the Teaching Generation Alpha, as well. So have a look at that and find that if you can. And thank you so much for joining us. There it is, Generation Alpha in the classroom.
Yeah, it's been published this year. Yeah.
And if you click on the link that's now appeared on the screen, folks, you can get a sample chapter and go and apply the reading to what Olga's just been telling you about. So, Olga, thank you so much for bringing our first block of ALTOC to an end.